So you've talked about reading the economics of space and time again recently.
Yeah, just one chapter, but a very long chapter.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on
I gave you my thoughts. My thoughts were it was very well footnoted,
that?
indicating I had a complete mastery of the field, but I made some major omissions, so shall we say.
Yeah, but you're also saying that you thought you had sort of the right idea at the end of that second
Yeah,
chapter.
right. Right. The idea of uh, uh, a multi-layer concept like the body and the organs and the tissues and the chemicals and you go down and down and down. So that's what I should have done instead of simplistically talking about our resources.
Let's see. I guess I need to look at it some more. But I think in the book you're talking about measures on measures or something like that, like a hierarchy of measures, something like that.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, a measure. Well, you have to know what a measure is. The whole idea is, you remember the subtitle is the measure theoretic foundations of social science. So most of chapter two was uh, was a kind of alternation. I give some abstract definition from measure theory, and then I talk about how it fits in with the real world. Then another uh, uh, the basic theorem. There are about six or seven basic theorems which define measure theory, and so I give this, and I give how it relates to the real world. This how it relates. That part is pretty good. I think tried to indicate, and I'm I'm familiar with the work of let's see Herb Gintis. You may have heard of him.
No, I'm afraid not.
Um, well, you may have heard of his. I mean, he's a Marxist, probably still is, and Samuel Bowles, who you may have heard of, was his Marxist colleague,
Huh.
essentially for the duration of most of their lives.
But they also like measure theory, or
No,
what's that
I
connection?
doubt if they ever heard of measure theory, if they did. But the reason I think of Gintis is because he thinks that economics should have a something equivalent to what I call measure theory, namely the theory of games,
Huh.
which I have a very low opinion of. So I don't think he's on the right track. We'll see who's right in the long run.
Why don't you like game theory, at least as applied to economics?
For several reasons. First of all, any real world game would be much too complicated to analyze by game theory.
Huh.
In other words, in game theory, typically you have to know the rules of the game. In other words, it has to be in a single box. That's why you can solve games in terms of the basic rules like checkers or chess and so forth, or even Go. You can actually come up with interesting theorems. But if you go to the real world, um, for one thing, you have to have some idea of what your fellow gamesters are doing, what their preferences are, what their strategies are, before you can formulate your strategy.
Huh.
And I mean, it's almost impossible to have a sufficient understanding of the people you're interacting with to play a game as it's defined, as it's usually defined. Because if you don't know much about how the other people are playing, that there's no way you can find what to do. Furthermore, the but by the nature of the game, you have to be in the real world. You always have the option of quitting the game, but you don't have that option in the theory of games. You have to keep playing no matter how unpleasant it is.
couldn't that just be another action?
It could be another action, but how would you know when to take it? So I mean there's also a couple of other things, but that would be the main thing. You really don't know what game you're playing when you're in the real world, and therefore you can't rely on the theory of games. I'm not the only one, by the way, who has a low opinion of that. There's also this economist Franklin Fisher who has a low opinion of the theory of games. He says, I mean, there's all kinds of interactions, but he does not think that game theory advances you to any great extent.
Now, it seems like auction theory has been pretty successful. There's a lot of applications. I think
Auction theory.
would you say that's a subset of game theory? 'Cause, I think like
Um,
Google and Microsoft and other companies
yeah,
have
but it's but
applied
it's
that pretty
it's a
successfully.
very stereotyped thing. In other words, you get an auction, you have increased auctions, or you have one shot auctions, or you have you, if you put your bid inside an envelope and don't know anybody else's
Mm.
bid. Yeah, so that's a well developed theory, but and in a certain sense, it's a game, but it's a game which is has most of its characteristics within a box
Oh,
that you can specify.
I see. So that makes it more similar to a game like chess or Go.
Yeah, I
Okay,
would say that.
I see.